If you're not losing weight even in a calorie deficit, and you're sure your tracking is on point, it could be for one of these reasons. If you're not losing weight even though you're burning more calories than you're eating, your smartwatch, this thing, is probably lying to you. Smartwatches are incredible at tracking your heart rate. They're very good for step counts. I use a Garmin, and it is incredible at setting up workouts and amazing interval sessions. When it comes to calories burned, they can overestimate by as much as 93%. So if you go into a 500 calorie cardio session, that might only be 250 calories burned. Use exercise for your health and don't eat back exercise calories. Most of the time, you'll be eating back more than you burned. And if you do have a smartwatch, that's great. Take note of the calories burned if you like, but don't use them to influence your decision making in the future. If you're in a calorie deficit but you're not losing weight yet, it could be because your expectations are completely warped. Don't expect to get your calories and start tracking and losing weight from day one. Some people will, but some people won't. Rather than trying to micromanage every individual day, you need to weigh yourself as often as possible using the FAB formula. First thing in the morning, after using the restroom, before any food or liquid. Then look at your weekly averages. As long as you're dropping between 0.5 and 1% of your body weight on average per week, you're in the green zone. Think about what that means for you. If you're 200 pounds, that means 1 to 2 pounds per week. If you're 120 pounds, that means roughly 0.6 to 1.2 pounds per week. That's great progress. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. If you're in a calorie deficit but you're not losing weight, it might be the case that you're holding on to a little bit of water. Here are the factors affecting fat loss, and here are the factors affecting weight loss. Fat loss and weight loss are not the same thing. You might be seeing fat loss, but you might not be seeing any weight loss, and that could be because you're holding some water. Having more sodium or carbohydrates than usual will typically cause a heavier scale weight the following day due to some possible water retention. That doesn't mean sodium or carbs are bad, it's just something that you need to know so that you don't end up slashing your calories for no reason and doing something you might regret. Stress can also make you retain water, and so too can your hormone, particularly around your cycle if you're a female. To fix water retention, you need to know the cause though. So if it's caused by eating more carbs or sodium than usual, you probably don't need to bother doing anything. Just try and stay nicely hydrated, and eventually the bloating will go away and the scale weight will drop. If it's stress, try and take action to remove that stress. If it's diet stress, it might be time for a diet break, but that's probably not something that you really need to consider if you've only just started dieting. And if it's cycle related, well, there's really not much that you can do about that either. For most of my female clients, instead of looking at just weekly average weights, we tend to look at monthly averages as well. This gives us a much more complete picture. So instead of comparing week 1 to week 2, you need to think about comparing week 1 of your cycle to week 1 of your next cycle. If you're not losing any weight, but you're sure you're in a calorie deficit, maybe you're gaining muscle. Here's the math. In every 1 pound of fat, there are 3,500 calories. But building 1 pound of muscle only takes around 2,000 calories. So you can be in a deficit and still build muscle as you're getting the extra energy from your fat stores. Now, it's not common. It usually only happens for beginners or people coming back to training after a long layoff. But if you're in either of these cases, this could be you. Instead of solely using the scale to guide you, try and think about getting some body measurements to help out here as well. If your measurements like your arms and your thighs and your chest are all going up, but your weight isn't necessarily going down, then you might be building some muscle and losing a little bit of fat at the same time. So enjoy it while it lasts. If your weight loss has plateaued, even though you're still in a calorie deficit, you've been dieting for too damn long. You may have heard when you diet too long, your body goes into starvation mode and starts gaining fat even in a calorie deficit. Well, that is straight up. But metabolic adaptation is a real thing. Your metabolism will never turn completely off, and you can't kickstart it because it's not a lawnmower. But it will be suppressed by chronic dieting. This is why going from average levels of body fat to lean is easier than going from lean to very lean or shredded. If you started your diet on 2,000 calories, eventually you won't be losing weight on 2,000 calories anymore. That's because you're becoming a smaller human, so you need fewer calories to maintain your new body weight. Most people also reduce their calorie burn throughout the day without even realizing it. During a diet, we tend to get lazy, and while feeling a little less like taking the trash out might have a small impact here and there, our body will also subconsciously try to conserve energy too. You'll likely find you fidget less, as an example. And this is also why, over time, some females might lose their period. It's just something the body deems no longer necessary at a certain point in time, in the pursuit of survival. If you want to fight metabolic adaptation and keep losing fat, you want to lift weights to keep hold of all of your muscle and stay relatively active. Tracking your steps and keeping them relatively consistent should help with this. Thankfully, in the same way your metabolism slowed down during the cut, it should speed back up pretty quickly when you stop dieting. If you're not getting any leaner, even though you're still in a calorie deficit, you might be suffering from a common condition called not enough muscle-itis. Check out these two photos. Christian Bale is a similar body fat percentage in both. The difference? Well, here he's a starved rat, whereas here he's clearly been lifting some weight. If you've lost plenty of weight, but you still don't have the lean look that you're after, you might not have enough muscle mass underneath to effectively press against your skin and look the way that you want to look. Now, if this is you, you just need to spend more time building your body, so to speak. If you've never spent any time actively in the pursuit of more muscle mass, then you probably won't have anywhere near as much as you could have. Now, it can be psychologically challenging stepping away from being lean all of the time in favor of gaining weight and building some muscle. But this is essentially an investment into your future self. Plus, it's the fun part. What's not to love about eating more food and enjoying the parts of life that you enjoy ordinarily? Eventually, you'll have so much muscle, your metabolism will be so hot, you won't even know how to deal with all of the food that you now have to eat, which will also make the next diet way easier. Take it from me, very fun problem to have. If your fat loss has stalled and you still want to get leaner, here's what you need to do. Reduce calories, increase steps, add cardio, or some combination of all of the above. If you're going to reduce calories, chances are you've already got your protein around 1 gram per pound of body weight. So you want to try and pull from carbs or fats, but not your protein. So reduce your calories by anywhere from say 80 to 200. That could look like 10 to 30 grams of carbs and 5 to 10 grams of fat. Important though to try not to let your fats go below around 0.6 grams per kilo or 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. If they're already down there, you need to reduce your carbs or even add in some steps or some cardio. If you are going to add in steps, simply add maybe 1,000 to 2,000 steps per day to what you're already doing. That's on average across the week. And if you're going to add cardio, what I'd suggest is you start with 1 to 2 rounds per 2-week period. I like this protocol. 20 seconds all out 100% effort, followed by 1 minute and 40 seconds of a slower pace on whichever cardio equipment that you enjoy. Do 5 to 7 rounds and call it a day. Do this twice 1 week and none the next. This should be more impactful than performing one every single week and mean your body is less likely to adapt to it. If your calories are already pretty low, you're going to have to add more steps. And if you don't have the time for an extra 2,000 steps every day, you're gonna have to add some cardio. Or you can use a combination of all of the above based on your own lifestyle and preferences. Whichever option you choose, as long as it is sustainable, you're probably on the right path.